Welcome. Thanks for joining this episode of EcosystmTV. Today's session is dedicated to the topic of innovation for a sustainable future. Sustainability has taken center stage over the last few years. Singapore has just finished the public consultation on the country's climate goals. The outcome is yet to be published. A Deloitte study from 2021 showed that the number one concern or priority for the Gen Z is actually sustainability ahead of unemployment or any other economic factor. And our own ecosystem research shows as well that over 70% of organizations in Singapore have put sustainability as a strategic initiative on their agenda. So let's talk a little bit about the innovation that is happening here on the ground in Singapore. And I'm really excited to have two very experienced executives with me today. First of all, we've got Leong, who is the Managing Director for Equinix in South Asia. And we've got Harsha Sundararaman, who is the Managing Director for Sustainable Energy Solutions at SP Group. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Yimei and Harsha, can I ask you to do a quick introduction of yourself, obviously your role, but also your relation to sustainability?
Yes, so I'm Yimei and I'm the MD for Equinix for Asia South. And Equinix has focused on sustainability as a journey since 2015. And it is front and center of everything we do, not just environmental, but social sustainability as well.
Perfect. We talk about this a little bit more later.
Yeah, and thanks for having me here, Uli. Glad to be here. My name is Harsha, and I'm the Managing Director for Sustainable Energy Solutions at SP Group. I think sustainability is a very interesting topic, very important one as well. For me personally, it gives me focus and purpose. And climate change and global warming has a far-reaching impact. And I think it's important to really think about what we are trying to do and perhaps speed up the processes so that the impact that we make today is going to have the necessary benefits for the generations of tomorrow.
Thank you, Harsha. Let me start with the first question to you. Singapore as a country earlier this year announced their decarbonization goals to be carbon neutral by 2050. So we have about 28 years to get there. There's two sides to sustainability. There's the energy creation or sourcing, and there's the energy consumption. You're working on the heart of innovation for the energy sourcing. Can you talk us through a few of the initiatives that you and your team are working on at SP Group?
Over the last 2 to 3 years, we have set up a new organization called Sustainable Energy Solutions. And really the focus there is to enable and empower our customers to advance their sustainability goals. I will start with the first part, which is really what we try to do on the grid side of the house, because what we do there and what we do in the Sustainable Energy Solutions side of the things are slightly different, and the purpose is slightly different as well, right? On the grid side, we operate the transmission and distribution network, and here we move, as I mentioned, electrons from one point to another. And what's important there is to make sure that the grid is kept renewed. From an infrastructure perspective, we also have to put in layers of technology that allows us to monitor the infrastructure more efficiently, improve productivity when we're operating the infrastructure. And all this is important because we want to mitigate the losses that the infrastructure may have. And losses translates into carbon emissions for us from that perspective. And we have got the grid emission factor there as a benchmark for us to ensure that we are making sure that we are going to stay close to the benchmark or reduce the benchmark, right? On the Sustainable Energy Solutions side of the house, as I mentioned, this organization is about 2 to 3 years old. And we've got 3 key pillars that drives the sustainable energy solutions for us, or this organization. The first one is district cooling, second one is mobility, and the third piece is energy services. And here the goal for us is to actually help our customers, enable them and empower them to advance their sustainability goals. We enable and empower them with the technologies that we provide so that they can attain a low carbon future.
Thank you. And look, we're drilling a little bit more about some of the initiatives in a minute. But Yimei, you're sitting on the other side of the equation. So you're heading up the Equinix team for South Asia, one of the largest data center and interconnect providers in the world. We also know that data centers are standing for high consumption or high consumer of energy. I think in Singapore it makes up 7% of the overall country's energy consumption. Yet Equinix pledged to be carbon neutral by 2030. Can you walk us through how you're going to get there?
In Equinix, our purpose is to be the platform where the world comes together to enable innovations, to create value digital possibilities and really focus on work, life, and planet. Equinix focus is to ensure that we focus on our future-first strategy. We have embarked on our sustainability journey since 2015. We launched our science-based targets last year. We have raised 4.9 billion bonds, which we ensure that we green our data centers, focus on energy efficiencies, and focus on piloting new energies like hydrogen. So, to that point as well, we really take that very seriously. So as part of the Singapore focus, we really have launched a couple of tracks. First, it's how do we bring awareness to the community? Yep. Secondly, is how do we create that knowledge and innovation in the sector? And thirdly, is how do we enable the digital economy? Yep. So from an awareness at a community level, we've engaged with the institutions like SMU and partner with them to really try and bring more awareness to the community. From a knowledge and skills perspective, we've launched the Equinix Sustainability Scholarship Fund. Yep. And in terms of the digital economy, we clearly are continuing to focus on partnering with the correct ecosystems to really enable those digital economies in a really green and sustainable manner.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Equinix has set very aggressive decarbonization goals as well. I think you want to be carbon neutral by 2030?
2030, yes.
Which is very, very aggressive. It's
yes.
Not far away.
Right.
But also, you mentioned the digital economy and obviously data center, and it goes hand in hand because data centers are fueling the digital economy. Yes. So, and Singapore specifically is very aggressive as well in the way to build a digital economy, to build digital services. Yes. So, obviously the footprint of data centers has to grow as well to fuel that and to support that. So that's why your services are very, very relevant to grow the future.
I think there are two parts to this, right, Uli? And Yimei rightfully brought it up, right? So there's one aspect of it which is really the energy transition. And this is about moving from fossil fuel-based fuel sources or energy sources to low carbon energy sources. Yeah. So that's the energy transition. Yeah. That will take time, over a horizon. And from a Singapore perspective, the aim is to become carbon neutral by and around 2050, right? Slightly later than Equinix's ambitious target of 2030, right? So that's one part of it. The second part of it is energy efficiency and energy productivity. I call it energy productivity. And these are two things. Energy efficiency and energy productivity is something that you can do today. And this is really what we are focused on, from a sustainable energy solutions perspective. And when Yimei and I spoke about some of the solutions, some of the technology that we can potentially, look into, collaborate, innovate around, and so on, one clearly came up which is district cooling, right? So cooling is a important component of data center operations.
Absolutely.
Big energy guzzler as part of data center operations as well. And in Singapore, we are the largest district cooling operator. We've been operating the Marina Bay district cooling. It's the world's largest underground district cooling network. We've been operating it since 2006, almost 2 decades of operational experience. One of the areas that I would be very excited to explore to drive energy efficiency and enable data centers to have a lower carbon footprint is to integrate, a concept of, we talked about it, we call it DC to DC, district cooling to data center. Right? So this could be an interesting way forward for us.
I think this year alone, we've actually managed to really get greater efficiencies by just making adjustments to the environment. So those are the constant changes that needs to be done, right? But I think from a data center perspective as well is the built-in material that we are looking at, and those are some of the things that our innovation facilities is basically looking at, which was set up in Washington at the start of the year. I am actually really heartened. In September 20th, we actually announced our partnership with NUS.
I wanted to ask you about this as well, yeah.
Yes, the Center of Energy for Research and Technology. And that's really exciting because that's the first in the world.
So that's the Innovation Center based in Singapore?
CERT is basically part of NUS, so we're tying up with CERT to basically do a first of its kind comparative study between PEM cell and fuel flexible linear generator, right? So hydrogen is clearly kind of, PEM cell is kind of like the way to go for hydrogen, but there is the potential for the flexible linear generator because that gives you alternative fuels like biogas, hydrogen, or some of the renewables. So that all looks really promising, yeah? So we are really excited about that. You know, I think there's still a lot of things that are happening in the energy front, you know. I think as I have conversations with the energy companies, you know, it is just really exciting what is unfolding, because as long as there's investment, there's focus, and there's intellectual capability put behind it, you know, we have seen, you know, how new frontiers have been reached, right?